Erev Tov and good evening. Lag BaOmer Sameach to everyone. Thank you for joining us this evening. Tonight's learning is Le'iloi Nishmas Rivka Brine Bas HaChover Eliezer, and also Lehibadol Ben Chaim L'Chaim for a Refuah Shlema for Yehuda Leib Chizkiyahu Ben Basya. We are in the Zera Shimshon on Parsha Behar. It's, of course, a double Parsha this coming Shabbos, God willing, Bahar B'chukosai. We're looking at Os Dalid in Parshas Behar. In the sefer, it is on Daf Kuf Chaf Ches. So let us jump right in. The Zera Shimshon quotes, starts with the Gemara in Maseches Baba Basra. Parak Kama de Baba Basra, in the first parak of Maseches Baba Basra, my dichsiv, the Gemara asks a question, what is it that's written? What is the meaning of the pasuk from Mishlei? We're going to see a couple, two or three psukim from Mishlei during the course of this piece. So we start off with this one. Malve Hashem chonin dal, and then the pasuk continues ugemulo yishalem lo. So that pasuk means Hashem is borrows, or I should change that. It is like lending to Hashem when you give a gift to a poor person. And then the pasuk continues, it's not quoted here, ugemulo yishalem lo. And this person's kindness for giving money to a poor person, Hashem will pay back. So the Gemara asks, what is the meaning of that pasuk? And Amar Rabbi Yochanan comments, ilmole mikra kasav, if it wasn't for the fact that this pasuk was actually written in Sefer Mishlei, in Tanakh, iyafshar la'omro. It would be impossible for us to say the idea of this pasuk on our own. Kavayachol, it's as if the pasuk is saying, Eved love leish malve, that Hashem is a borrower to the lender. We'll explain what the Gemara means by this in a moment. And by the way, this is another quote from another pasuk in Mishlei, Eved love leish malve, a borrower is like an Eved, like a servant, to the lender, to the person who lends him money. Ad Kahn until here is the quote from the Gemara in Baba Basra that the Zera Shimshon brings. So let's just pause to understand what's happening in this little piece of Gemara. So the Gemara notes that we have a very unusual statement in a pasuk in Mishlei, and it says that when you give money to a poor person, when you graciously, it uses the word chonein, when you graciously give money to a poor person, then that is as if you're lending money to Hashem, and Hashem will pay you back, right? So let's just think about the Pashut Pshat in the pasuk. If we see a really destitute, a truly poor individual, and we give them money, we help them with tzedakah, the farthest thing from our mind is that they're going to pay us back, or that we're going to get the money back. I mean, we see this as a person who has no means. We're giving them money to help them survive, to help them live, to help them subsist. So we're really, this is a gift. We're giving them charity. It's a charitable gift. However, the pasuk in Mishlei says when you do that act, you are actually, it's as if you're actually lending money to Hashem, ugemulo, and the kindness that you do, yishalem lo. Hashem will pay you back for that kindness. So that's the basic shot in the pasuk. Then Rabbi Yochanan comes along and he says, if you think about it, he says, this pasuk is a radical concept, and a concept that's so radical that we would never be allowed to suggest it if it wasn't written in the pasuk. And that is that Hashem is like a borrower, has the relationship of a borrower to a person who gives tzedakah to a poor person. And then quotes another pasuk in Mishlei where it says the relationship of a borrower to a lender is like an eved. It's like a person borrows money. They become, in a certain sense, like a servant, like an eved to the person who lent them money. And this pasuk is saying it's as if Hashem is like a lender, because he's considered like a borrower, like he borrowed money that he has to pay back to the person who gave money to a poor individual. So there's a lot wrapped up in that little piece of Gemara. So the Zera Shimshon continues. Yesh l'datek. There's a point here to analyze. Shehaya lo lichtov chonein dal malve Hashem. The pasuk should have been written, one who graciously gives a gift to a poor person, malve Hashem. It's as if he lent money to Hashem. that would have been, according to the Zera Shimshon, a clearer way to write the pasuk. V'lama hiktim malve Hashem. So why did the pasuk put the phrase lending to Hashem first? She'ein haloshen kol kach medukdak, which makes the language of the pasuk not so precise, not so clear, right? And let's look back at the pasuk again. Malve Hashem, one is lending to Hashem when he gives a gracious gift to a poor person, right? So the idea of lending to Hashem shouldn't come first. It should say, when you give a gift, a charitable gift, a gracious gift to a poor person, then it's as if you lent money to Hashem. So the Zera Shimshon is asking that simple question that it should have stated the pasuk in reverse order, the first few words in the pasuk in a reverse order. So that's the question that he starts off with. So let's continue. The Yiturats, and this can be answered imai de amrinon hasam, with what the Gemara says over there besamach, nearby. The Gemara that we quoted first started with was the Gemara in Baba Basra and Daf Yudam and Aleph. So if you look just a little bit at the bottom of the previous Amud, Daf Tesam and Beis, as it quotes, it says Omar. The Gemara actually says, by the way, Omar Rabbi Yitzchak. This is a little typo here, because in the text you can see, in the Zera Shimshon text it says Amar Rabbi Yochanan. You can correct that. In the Gemara it's Amar Rabbi Yitzchak. So Amar Rabbi Yitzchak said, My dichsiv, what does it mean when it's written, and this is another pasuk in Mishlei, Rodef tzedakah v'chesed, a person who pursues giving tzedakah and doing kindness, yimtza chayim, this person will find life. And then the next two words in the pasuk to complete the pasuk are tzedakah v'chavod. This person who pursues a charity, tzedakah, and kindness will find chayim, life, tzedakah, charity, v'chavod, and honor. And you need to know the whole pasuk in order to understand what the Gemara asks. So now let's continue. Mishum de rodef tzedakah yim tzedakah, the Gemara asks, because a person pursues giving charity and helping needy people, then they too will find charity, meaning, the Gemara says, meaning that they're going to need charity, they're going to have to be given charity from other people. That's not a great reward. That can't be what the pasuk is saying, is that if you help people by giving them charity, you yourself will be given charity too. That's clearly not what the pasuk is indicating. Ella, but lomar lecha, what the pasuk is really coming to say to you is, call harodef tzedakah, anyone who pursues giving tzedakah, HaKadosh Baruch Hu mamtzi lo ma'os, Hashem will bring to him money, will arrange for him to receive money, la'asos mehem tzedakah, to do even more tzedakah. So according to this Gemara, the Gemara is saying that based on another pasuk in Mishlei, when we give tzedakah, not only does Hashem reward us by paying us back the money that we gave as a gift to a poor person, which we saw from the previous pasuk, but also Hashem will bring more money to us to enable us to continue giving tzedakah and continue helping out people who are in need. Umishum hachi, and because of this, dayik kra lomar, the pasuk was careful and precise in the way it set up the words. Remember, the Zera Shimshon's whole question was, why did it put the order of the words the way it did? It seemingly should have reversed the order. So Zera Shimshon says, that's why it put the order the way it did. It put Malvei Hashem first, Klomar, as if to say, meaning not the Pashat Pshat in the pasuk, but it was as if to say, if to give the pasuk a second meaning, an additional meaning, HaKadosh Baruch Hu lo ve'lemisha chonein dal. Hashem will lend money to someone who is kind to poor people. Shemamtzi lo mos, as the Gemara just said, the second Gemara, Hashem will arrange for this person to receive money, kadeshi yechonein dal, in order to help, to further help and to continue helping poor people. Ve'afilu hachi, and even so, meaning even though Hashem is going to pay the person back, as Zera Shimshon says, who gumulo yishalim lo. Nevertheless, when we call makom, nevertheless, mashma nami hadrasha hanizkar le'el. We also, in addition to this teaching that Hashem will give you money to continue helping other poor people, we also have the first drasha, de kavayochel eved love leish malve, that it's as if Hashem is a borrower from the person who helps poor people, and it becomes as if Hashem is like an eved to the ish malved, to the person who is loaning money and helping and being charitable to poor people. So again, let's pause here to take in everything that we're that we've covered so far. So we have two Gemaras from Baba Basra. The first one taught us that when a person gives a gift to a poor individual, then Hashem will pay that person back. And not only that, but the extraordinary idea that it's as if Hashem is now a borrower, a loveh, who owes that person money. It's as if Hashem says, you help this person, now I owe you. I have a debt on myself to pay you back. And ki'ilu kaviyachol, it's as if I'm your eved, I'm your servant until I pay you back. I've got to make sure whatever money I get, ki'ilu, I'm going to pay you back, pay back the person who helped a poor person. That was the first Gemara. Then we had a second Gemara, which brought in a new pasuk from Mishlei, which says that when you pursue giving tzedakah and doing chesed, then Hashem makes sure that you yourself will find the three wonderful things mentioned in the pasuk: chayim, life; tzedakah, charity; v'chavod, and honor. And what is the meaning of charity? The Gemara says that you will be given, Hashem will arrange for you to get more money to give tzedakah, to give even more tzedakah, and continue helping people in need. So if we stopped right here, we would already have tremendous lessons in the importance and the beauty of helping needy individuals, and the incredible reward that Hashem promises through these psukim and mishlei to give a person who in fact helps needy individuals. But we're not stopping, and the Zera Shimshon continues. But according to the simple explanation of these matters, kasha, we have a question. How can Hashem give so much reward to someone who gives tzedakah? We see that Hashem is kind of heaping on the reward. And to someone who spends money on other mitzvahs, not just giving tzedakah, as the Zera Shimshon is about to show, and he gives an example. Kigon, for example, halulav, the money that's spent on the mitzvah of lulav. When we spend money to buy a lulav, we're not at all thinking, oh, this is similar to giving tzedakah and helping a poor person. But we're going to see a comparison here in terms of the schar, the reward that Hashem gives a person, both for tzedakah, which we've been discussing, and now for other mitzvahs, for example, the mitzvah of lulav. De amrin and b'medrash, as it says in the Medrash Rabbah on Sefer Vayikra, mischar lekicha atalomed schar lekicha. The Medrash says, from the reward for taking, you can learn the reward for other acts of taking. And of course, this is based on the pasuk when we think of taking in a lulav, ulakachtem lachem, you take for yourself the lulav, the daled minim, the four species. So what does the Medrash over there say? It says that we see, it gives two examples of where we take something and we're tremendously rewarded. One is for the mitzvah of lulav. If you take for yourself a lulav, then you're doing 4 mitzvos. It's the daled minim is as if it's 4 mitzvos, and the Medrash says, and for that you get tremendously, alachas kama v'kama, you get tremendously rewarded, more than just the number 4, more than the 1, as if you're thinking my lulav is 1 mitzvah, more than the 4 of the daled minim, you get tremendously rewarded for doing the mitzvah of lulav. And then the Gemara gives another really interesting example. It says that if you look by Yetzias Mitzrayim, in order to put blood on the doorpost of the houses before the night of the Makas Bechoros, of the slaying of the firstborn, there's a very famous command that Hashem gives at that time to take blood and put it on the doorpost so that the danger will pass over, the Hashem will pass over those houses, and the Jews would be safe in their homes. So there also it says ulakachtem agudas ezov. The pasuk says you should take for yourself a bunch of hyssop. You should take some part of the hyssop plant or hyssop leaves. You should dip it in blood and then put that on your doorpost. So the Medrash says, from that one simple act of going and purchasing a little bit of this plant, this hyssop plant, and dipping it in blood and putting it on your doorpost, something that cost a person nothing, very little money and very little energy and very little time. Think how much reward the Jewish people got, because they were rewarded with leaving Egypt, and they were rewarded with all of the wealth that happened at the Kriyas Yamsuf. All of the Egyptian soldiers, the Chazal tell us that all of the wealth from the chariots and the soldiers' armor and their jewelry and everything and their weapons, it all came up on the shore. And so Bnei Yisrael was rewarded 100-time fold. And then the Medrash even continues, and it says, but not only that, then the Bnei Yisrael went ultimately and they fought battles against Sichon and Og, and they captured huge areas of land. Then they came into Eretz Yisrael and they wiped out the nations in that land and captured everything that belonged to them. So from a small, tiny start, you might say a small, tiny investment, an expenditure of a few prutos, a few little coins to buy a bunch of hyssop and dip it in the blood and put it on the doorpost, incredibly momentous events happened. And even if you're just talking financially, purely in monetary value, Bnei Yisrael became extraordinarily wealthy from that little investment. So that's the point that the Vayikra Rabbah that the Medrash is making about schar lakicha. The reward for taking and investing a little bit is 1,000-time fold is Hashem's reward for that. Uba Meseches Yom Tov, and in Meseches Yom Tov, which is Meseches Beya, the Gemara says, Kol mizonosav shel adam kitzuvin lo mi Rosh Hashanah le Rosh Hashanah. Continuing in this theme, it says, all of a person's food and needs are set between Rosh Hashanah le Rosh Hashanah. Everything that person needs is set. Chutz mehotzos Shabbosos v'yomim tovim v'hotzos bonav l'talmud Torah, except for the expenditures that the person will have for Shabbos and for Yontif and for paying for his sons to be taught Torah. How come those things aren't set as well? Meaning, we know that on Rosh Hashanah, we're judged for the whole year, and things are set during that time between Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur when things are finalized. Everything is set financially for a person and in every other way too, but set financially for that person for the whole year. However, the amount of money that a person will spend for Shabbos needs and Yontif needs and for and Talmud Torah for their children, those needs are not finalized. Why? She'im hosif mosifin lo. Because if a person spends more money in those areas, then more money will be given to that person for those specific needs in their income. So let's just use a number. Let's imagine a person was set, they were going to have $10,000 to cover everything halavai. I'm going back to my childhood, a long, long time ago. Let's say they were going to have $10,000 to cover their needs and their expenses for the year, and Hashem decided this is how the person's judged and this is what the person's going to receive. However, what is held in abeyance for later purposes is how much money is that person going to spend for Shabbos, for food and everything the person needs for Shabbos, also for Yontif, also for Torah education for the children. And that is where, if the person spends more, then the income is increased. So let's say the person spends $5,000 more in all of those areas. So now the person will receive $15,000, $5,000 in addition to the money that was originally decided upon for the year. So you see that there is extra income to cover these mitzvos of honoring Shabbos and Yontif appropriately and of paying for the children's Torah education. And we have said that it's as if Hashem is a borrower. When we help a needy individual, when we do, the Zera Shimshon is now expanding that idea, and when we do spend money on other mitzvos, it's as if Hashem's a borrower and owes us that money. And we know, the Zera Shimshon says, and when he says we know, listen to this idea that he says we know. We don't necessarily know this idea, but he's telling us we should know this idea, that Hashem kept the mitzvos of the Torah techila. First, kodem shenitnom liyisrael, before he gave the mitzvos to the Jewish people, meaning when Hashem created the world, Hashem restricted himself to keeping the mitzvos and following the laws of the Torah that could be applied to Hashem, before ever giving the Torah to Klal Yisrael. Hashem, according to this idea, to this concept, this lofty concept, Hashem was not willing, so to speak, was not comfortable with a situation where he said to the Jewish people, I'm giving you the Torah and I'm giving you these restrictions and these mitzvahs and these obligations, but it has nothing to do with me. No, Hashem said, I'm going to run the world in a way that is in line with these commandments, these mitzvahs of the Torah, and I've accepted that upon myself before I even give the Torah to Klal Yisrael. And if that's the case, how can Hashem add more reward and benefits to us? That would violate the prohibition of paying interest, ribis. So now let's pause, because the Zera Shimshon, I think, has built everything to ask this question. He had an earlier question, but that was a rather a kind of beginner question, and now we have the big question he wants to ask. He has established through several different sources in Makoros that Hashem, when we give money when we do tzedakah and help poor individuals, and when we do other mitzvos as well, according to the Medrash Rabbah and Vayikra that we saw, Hashem rewards us manifold times beyond the expenses that we had. How can Hashem do that if he's considered a lova? According to the pasuk in Mishlei, he's called a borrower. A borrower can only pay back the specific amount that he was lent. Otherwise, if he pays back more, that's considered ribis, that's considered interest, and therefore it should be prohibited. It is prohibited for us B'nai Yisrael to do that, to pay interest, to pay ribis, but it should also be prohibited to Hashem to do. So how can Hashem do that? The Yesh Lomar, and we can answer, Shekosov HaTor Yoredeya, it's written, and the Torah in Yoredeya, and this is also brought down in the Shulchan Aruch, the Talmidei Chachomim Mutarim. Talmidei Chachomim are permitted. Lahalvos zeh lozeh beribis. You have to be careful, because we're going to explain what this expression means, but just to translate it, Talmidei Chachomim are allowed to lend money. Actually, it's not talking about money, as we'll see, it's talking about food, to lend food to each other with interest. Lefi sheyodin shehu aser, because we can take for granted that Talmidei Chachomim know very well that ribis is completely forbidden. If you were to lend me 2 challahs before Shabbos because I didn't have challah, it's well known to Talmidei Chachomim that I couldn't then come back and say, oh my gosh, thank you so much, you saved me, here's 4 challahs, 2 for what you gave me and 2 for next week. You wouldn't be allowed to do that. You're not allowed to pay back more than was lent to you. However, Talmidei Chachomim can do it. V'nosnen osam b'matana gemura, because since they know the prohibition so well, since they're so aware and have studied the prohibition in the halachas of ribis so well, it's clear that if they were to do something like this, they would be given the additional food as a matana gemura, as a complete gift, having nothing to do as a extra payback for the loan. The dafka b'davar muat, this is only allowed if it's something relatively small, she'adam ragil litein lechaveru b'matana, that it would be understood that a person could frequently give such a thing as a gift. So if we use the challah example, right, 1 challah or 2 challahs or a couple of challah rolls, these are the kinds of things that you might do to a friend, to a neighbor before Shabbos, right? But if I show up with a bakery truck and I give you 30 loaves of bread, so then that's not something that could be considered a normal matana, a normal gift. I'm going so overboard that wouldn't work, but I can give you something that's like a little gift, something I would normally give as a gift, even though it has the appearance of possibly being like a kind of ribis. There's a special heter to be able to do it. Aval biyoser mikan, but more than something that's considered a reasonable gift, lo, that would not be allowed. Ad kan l'shono, until here is a quote from the Torah and the Shulchan Aruch. So, what does that idea have to do with what we're discussing? Let's continue. V'hachanami, and here also, misha oset tzedakah, someone who gives charity. Umisha motzi hotzos l'tzorach hamitzvos, and someone who has expenditures, spends money for the purpose of doing mitzvos. Who nosein osam, Hashem gives them extra rewards above and beyond what they actually spent, b'matana gemura, as a complete gift. So when Hashem gives us these incredible rewards that were described in the Gemara we looked at in Baba Basra, and the 2 Gemaras, and in the Medrash Rabbah and Vayikra, being rewarded over and over and more above and beyond what a person actually spent either on tzedakah from Baba Basra or other mitzvos from the Medrash and from the Gemara and Maseches Beah. In all of those cases, the extra rewards from Hashem are matana gemura. They're not ribbis, they're not interest. They are in the context of a gift. The ha'amrinon, because we say, hevu ke'avodim hamishamshin es harav shelo al manas lekabel pras. We know the famous Mishnah in Pirkei Avos. All Jewish people should serve Hashem, having in mind not to receive any reward. We're serving Hashem because Hashem is our master and he gave us mitzvos to do. And like good avodim, we serve Hashem because it's what Hashem told us to do, not because of the schar, not because we're focused on getting the reward. So therefore Hashem's saying, I'm not giving you an extra reward because that's what you wanted, that's what we agreed upon, so to speak. I'm giving you a matana gemura. I'm giving you a complete gift. And it's permissible for a person to take a small extra gift, as we saw. And even though what Hashem gives, we said, could be a tremendous amount, hu davar muad is considered a small thing. Shahare eno nosein lo ela haperos ba'olam hazeh. Anything that Hashem reward us in this world for the mitzvos that we do, for the tzedakah that we do, for the other mitzvos that we spend money on, we are only getting the payros for that. We're not getting the actual reward. We're getting the fruit of the reward, so to speak. In other words, we're not getting the piece of land, the piece of real estate that Hashem really wants to reward us with, that we really deserve. We're just getting some added benefits as if you're eating the fruit from the trees on a piece of land. We're not getting the piece of land. We're getting the fruit from the trees on the piece of land, ba'olam hazeh, when Hashem rewards us in this world. The ode, and more so to further express this point that the real, true reward, the incredible reward is waiting for us in Olam Haba, quotes another Mishnah, sheyofe shah acha shel koras ruach ba'olam haba mikol chaye ha'olam hazeh. Another quote from Pirkei Avos, that one moment of time enjoying the pleasures, the spiritual pleasures of Olam Haba is worth more than all of an entire lifetime ba'olam hazeh, in this world, in this materialistic, this physical world. So now let's pause. So the Zera Shimshon has answered his question. How can it be that Hashem can reward a person so much more than they actually spend and they actually give on when they give tzedakah, when they do other mitzvos and spend money on other mitzvos? How could Hashem do it? It's ribbis, and Hashem also has to follow the mitzvos. So Hashem can't pay ribbis, and we can't receive ribbis. Zera Shimshon answers, it's not ribbis. If you look carefully in the Shulchan Aruch, you see there's a loophole, so to speak. There's a special case. Talmidei Chachamim will know the halacha and the prohibition of ribbis very well. If one gives food to the other person, then the second person can lends food to a person, then that person can give back even more, because the extra is viewed, and they have to both have this in mind, as a matana gemura, as a gift. So too, the Zera Shimshon says, Hashem, who is considered like a borrower, and he has committed to pay us back for the money that we spent on tzedakah and other mitzvos. Hashem says, I'm going to pay you back that money, and I'm even going to give you more, but the extra is okay. Don't worry about ribbis. It's a matana gemura. And if you say to me, yeah, but Hashem, these Gemaras say, and the Medrash says, it's going to be manifold, tremendously more than people actually spent. So that's not okay. Even in this special case that the Shulchan Aruch brings down, it's not okay to give so much more. It has to be a little bit. It has to be a reasonable amount that can be considered a gift. Answer, whatever Hashem gives us in this world compared to the reward in Olam Haba, whatever Hashem gives us, no matter how much more it is that we spent, is considered davar muad. It's considered a little thing, a small thing compared to the real reward. Zera Shimshon continues to refine this idea. The aheter hu dafka b'davar machal. And the Shulchan Aruch says, if you look over there, you'll see that this permissible case of giving a little bit more back between the Talmidei Chachamim is specifically food. You can't do it with money, but you can do it with food, like we gave the example of the challahs. The Moshe Kosva Shulchan Aruch Sham, exactly what the Shulchan Aruch writes. The afilu hachi, and even so, lo hutar bikotzas techila. Even this, when you're dealing with the food, would not be permissible if you made this agreement in the beginning. The Moshe Kosev Hataz Sham, just as the Taz, one of the commentators in the Shulchan Aruch, says over there, V'ayin Sham, and look at that. Let's explain what he means. When you do the special arrangement that the Shulchan Aruch says is permissible between the Talmidei Chachamim to lend someone food and then they pay back and they give more, they give an extra gift, that's only permissible if you didn't make the arrangement from the beginning. Meaning, if when I give the food to the second person, if the second person says, okay, I'm taking the 2 challahs and I'm going to pay you back 3 challahs, or if I say, here, I'm giving you 2 challahs, but hopefully you'll give me 3 challahs back, or I expect 3 challahs back, it is not permissible. That's not okay. It has to truly be a matana that the borrower, the person who got the food, received the food as a loan, decides to do at the end. No previous arrangements could have been made. What does that have to do with us? Zera Shimshon continues. V'hachinami, and here also, Tnan Lashon Achila. He says, look back at the Mishnah from Pirkei Avos that we quoted. It uses a language of eating. She'elu dvarim adam ochel peruseihem ba'olam hazeh. These are the things that a person eats the fruit of. When we get rewarded for the mitzvos that are listed in that Mishnah, that's only getting the fruit. Ochel perosein. It's eating the fruit of those mitzvos, of the reward for those mitzvos in this world. Below ketzitza, and it's also without any previous arrangement or agreement. Kedisnan, like the other Mishnah said in Pirkei Avos. Al tiyu ka'avodim hamishamshin es harav al menas lekabel pras. Don't be like an eved who is serving Hashem in order to receive a reward. The whole deal is off. If a person says, I'm going to do a mitzvah, and I'm going to spend money on the mitzvah, so that Hashem will pay me back for the money I spent, and he'll give me extra and more. Oh, you just ruined it. You just blew it. Because now you're doing the mitzvah to get the reward, and you're talking about getting extra. Then it is like ribbis. Then it would be prohibited, and Hashem wouldn't. Then all the arrangements would fall apart. Aval olam haba, but the reward that it gives a person in olam haba, the real reward, yochel lekabel kol ma sherotzeh. Then a person can receive anything that he wants, meaning anything that Hashem wants to give a person as a reward for olam haba. That is where the true reward, and it's so much greater than, as we said, than a reward that a person receives in this world. The hayom la asosam, because we know there's a famous quote from Chazal: today is the day to do the mitzvot. We do the mitzvot, meaning in today, meaning in the present world. Umachar lekabel scharan, and tomorrow in the future in olam haba, that's where we receive the schar. This world is the place to do mitzvot. The next world is the place to receive the true reward for those mitzvahs. The kivon shemeis adam, and when a person dies and they go to olam haba, God willing, adam naaseh chofshim min mitzvos. This is a quote from a Gemara in Masechta Shabbos. A person is then free in the next world from all of the strictures and obligations of mitzvos. Not only the Gemara is making that, Gemara is making the point. Not only is a person pater, so to speak, exempt, like we say, a person is niftar. They died, they left this world, they're pater for mitzvos. But a person can't do mitzvos. We can only do mitzvos in this world. We can't continue to grow and do more mitzvos in the next world. But for the Zera Shimshon's point, in the next world, we don't have to worry at all about ribbis and extra payment and interest. Hashem then rewards us to the greatest degree with the real reward. And we might say, oh my goodness, this reward is so much greater than the expenditures I made on mitzvos back and during my lifetime. Hashem says, don't worry about a thing. Ribbis doesn't apply. And now you're going to get the true reward, because the reward you received that you thought was a great reward, Hashem says that was davar mu'at. That was only a little bit compared to the reward for mitzvos that people receive, God willing, in olam haba, in the next world. So a very active piece, you might say, a very dynamic piece in the Zera Shimshon, where we started with a couple of little quotes from a Gemara in Baba Basra, and then a little question on that, and then the Zera Shimshon brought in a Medrash Rabbah, and he brought in a Gemara from the Seches Beya, and he brought in Mishnayos from Pirkei Avos, many Makoros here, all to develop this magnificent theme that Hashem, Kavayachol, it's as if He can't wait to pay us back when we do mitzvahs, when we help people, when we give tzedakah, when we do expenditures for other mitzvahs. It's as if Hashem say, I have to pay you back. I have an obligation, kavayachal, like a borrower, to pay you back, and I can't wait not only to pay you back, but to give you extra. And that brought up the whole problem of ribbis and interest. And Zera Shimshon beautifully explained how it's not a problem of ribbis, it's a matana. Hashem wants to give us gifts in addition to paying us back for the mitzvahs that we do. Always keeping in mind that whatever happens in this world is pales in comparison to the incredible spiritual reward that Hashem puts in store for the righteous and for those who do mitzvahs in this world, God willing, for all of us. So not just the righteous, the Beinonim, the regular people, God willing, also receive untold and incalculable rewards in Olam Haba.